just a little unwell. I know right now you can't tell, but stay a while and maybe then you'll see a different side of me. I'm not crazy, I'm just a little impaired, I know.
Matchbox 20's Grammy-nominated single, Unwell, featuring Rob Thomas. The new album, North, is on the way, but rock star Rob Thomas is also fired up about politics and Georgia exclusively. How fired up are you about this election?
I am incensed. Incensed by everything, by it all. Too much.
What do you make of the election battle? We're now only a few weeks away from decision time. What do you think of the way they've been going at each other and the issues that are likely to be the determinating issues?
You know, I think that the most exciting, it may be exciting for me because I'm, over here on the left, but what's kind of exciting is, we had, the 8 years with George Bush, and part of that happened because they had a clear message. They had a clear directive that they all kind of jumped on. And now, ever since kind of like the difference between figuring out what the Republican Party is, what the GOP Party really stands for, what the Tea Partiers are standing for, I've never seen them kind of disjointed in this way.
I mean, I find it baffling. As a Brit, from our political system, the idea that the leader of a party would be saying one thing about issues like abortion or whatever it may be, and the platform that the party put forward for its conventional, the equivalent in Britain, was completely different.
It's supposed to be less government in your life, and everything that they're...
I find the fact that they're different. It's like, how can that be right? I mean, if you're voting for this guy, are you voting for Romney personally? Are you voting for the party?
Yeah, well, I don't think that as a party they have a clear directive anymore. I think that it used to be easily wrapped up. I think that... And we've never been this, like, I hear, like, my grandfather and my great-grandfather would talk about, like, the days back when you couldn't speak to a Republican if you were a Democrat. The two of you just couldn't, And during my time growing up, that was never that way. And now we're back to that kind of 50-50. These people are really hard on this line. These people are really hard on this line.
You see, I appreciate that people have opinions and views and religious beliefs, and I completely respect them. I was brought up a Catholic. What I don't like about all of this, whether it's about religion or politics, is that the debate is now so vicious. The rhetoric is so vicious.
But it's not like, I have many friends that are conservative Republicans. They don't speak like that. And they don't have that kind of vitriol that just comes spewing out of their mouth when they do. And I just don't think that the people that are actually out there representing the right are the biggest nut jobs that I've ever seen. You've got these Ted Nugents, you've got some people talking about whether or not, what's legitimate rape. You've got just... Not all Republicans are crazy, but all those hateful, crazy people happen to be Republicans. And so I think it's not good for them to have those people, the worst of the barrel, the low-hanging fruit, kind of representing that
my experience is you get crazy Democrats who say stupid things.
Sure.
What you get with people like Ted Nugent, I've had him on the show a couple of times, is this kind of blind fury driving his whole rhetoric and debate, which can only whip people up. And there are lots of people out there who aren't the brightest of pennies who just react to that stuff.
That's exactly why it's dangerous, I think, because he's an intelligent person. And when he says that, like, everybody in the world should be able to have a gun, he's assuming that everybody out there is as intelligent as him and can make the decisions rationally that he can make, because he's a lot less crazy in his head than he likes to put out there. But the world's just not that way. There do need to be, some limitations on what people can have access to these things that are obviously, every day causing, rampant deaths all over the place, and then somehow trying to go, but it has nothing to do with the guns. It has nothing to do with access to the guns. It has nothing to do with automatic weapons versus, it just does. It just
does. I mean, you've been a very successful musician in America.
Very successful.
Very, very successful. What does being an American mean to you? And do you think that the dream that you grew up with has changed?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think as you get older in general, like, you have kids and your life goals change. You actually see yourself first, oh, I'm going to live past 21, and then once you realize that, you start to, trying to figure out what your life as an adult is going to mean. I mean, for me, at the end of the day, the whole truth about being an American and the greatest part about it, and not to say, I mean, there's a lot of kind of like this nationalistic kind of rhetoric that goes around of like, we're the only free country. You realize that that's not, that's not true. But I do like the idea that, if I want to write a song about my government being in cahoots with with church, I'm not going to go to jail for it. And I think those things are, are great. The idea that we can sit here and we can have these kind of debates about the people.
Well, the whole thing about the Pussy riots in Russia was absolutely ridiculous, wasn't it?
It was, of course it is, but it can happen. It does happen and it can happen, and that is kind of the most shocking thing, I think, because we're so far removed from that idea of it being a reality in our world that you see it and it just seems like something that would happen in a film or something that you would see that would maybe happen in 1920. But the fact that it's happening in modern day, you know, that's crazy.
Yeah, and also highlights how different Russia remains to someone like America. And America remains a very free country.
Yeah.
It just at the moment has, I think, a kind of identity crisis. And I hear a lot of people saying now, we've got to go back to basics in America, go back to building things, go back to doing the things that made America great in the first place. There's a lot of merit to that, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, this Obama campaign started off with a lot of talk about, you know, rebuilding the infrastructure and about making that a priority.
It hasn't really happened.
It hasn't happened at all, and I think that's, you know, I think a lot of people are still going to vote for Obama, but I think they're going to vote for Obama just because he's the better of the two choices and not because they're going into it with the same, you know, feeling of hope and change.
I think the messianic aspect of President Obama has certainly gone.
Yeah.
The idea that this is some kind of religious movement driving this extraordinary character who will cure the world and America of all known problems, that's over.
Yeah.
It's now a reality check, and the reality check is whether he or Mitt Romney, probably in the end, I think the decision will be who's got the better economic view for the country. Yeah,
it's going to be, and as long as people stay on point and don't kind of be distracted by the flashing lights that everybody's kind of throwing around them, you know, I mean, I think we inherently have a problem just in the system itself, because when you have, it becomes this weird game. You're the right or you're the left, and you have to assign yourself to one of those parties, and if you don't, then you know, you don't belong, because you belong to like some independent party that's never going to really get their voice heard anyway. And so it becomes about winning that game. It becomes about winning that game more than it becomes about, you know, maybe this year the guy on the right has more to say about my state and what I think he's going to do better. The only thing I think I hate more than hardcore conservatives are hardcore liberals. You know, I hate anybody that walks into a conversation and they already know the answer of what they want before they even kind of listen to the facts and maybe be able to have your mind swayed. One of the things that I do appreciate about Romney is he's a smart guy. You know, it's nice to see intelligent people up for...
No, I've met him a few times now. I like him very much personally. There's nothing wrong with Mitt Romney at all.
Exactly.
But he's a politician and he has views, and you've got to elect him on the power of the merit of his opinions. Let's turn to music. Matchbox 20, North is the album. Very cool cover, if you don't mind me saying.
Thank you very much.
Tell me about this.
Well, North, you know, we took a kind of a hiatus, I guess. I did a couple solo records, so we did like a greatest hits record, but this is our first studio record in over 10 years. So we kind of got...
Because you guys were like huge, then the traditional, the singer goes off and, you know, wants to be the new Michael Jackson, right?
Yes. I had to find a vehicle big enough for my ego. I had to find something that could, you know, my head could ride around in, because it got...
So you obviously missed each other. So you get back and you've now produced this album. And what was it like second time round to get back with the group and do your thing again?
Well, you know, I think because in the middle of the solo records, we did the greatest hits, and we always tour. Touring is a huge part of everything. So we were out on the road together for a year and a half, and while I was, you know, even while I was touring my solo record, the guys would come out to the shows and get up on stage and play. And
so you never really split?
Yeah, not at all. I mean, I've been friends with Paul in the band for 20 years. You know, I mean, this is always kind of the agenda. They were just nice enough to kind of let me go off and do this thing. And because of that, when we came back in with this band now, it was more collaborative than it used to be. It's a lot more of everybody writing together, which it used to be, there was no room for that because I had all these songs, and that was why I had the band. You know, but now I have this solo outlet. I can write for other people, kind of had these other places to put that.
And you're also going to be on CeeLo Green's team on The Voice,
I am. I'm Team CeeLo for life.
Very excited.
Yes.
I love CeeLo Green.
He's a great guy, man. He's a really intelligent...
He's got one of the great faces in the world.
He's a sweet guy.
He lights up. He came in here and literally the whole look, the jewelry, the everything, his face, his eyes, his
all
teeth.
I can think about, too, he wears those, like, all he wears is, like, the jogging suits, right?
Yeah.
And every time I see him, I think, man, I just got in the wrong genre of music. Because this whole tight pants and boots thing, man, in the rock and roll world, it's just not working. I really wish that I'd gone into hip-hop just for the gear.
Rob, thanks very much.
My pleasure, thanks.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20. The new album is North. The new single is She's So Mean. And we'll be right back.
She's so mean.